Let me tell you how a room full of people almost missed the most important lesson of their lives, and how a silent Marine, 6 Navy SEALs, and a single piece of folded paper forced everyone to face what respect really looks like, whether they were ready or not. I swear, if you blinked, you'd have missed it, because when it started, nobody in that auditorium thought anything strange was happening. Just another graduation, parents clutching cameras, kids lined up in their caps, the usual parade of smiles and balloons. That is, until a man in a faded Marine dress jacket showed up, didn't come in through the main doors, not with the rest of the happy crowd, slipped in quietly, almost like he didn't want to be seen, boots scuffed, jacket too big, hand behind his back, face carved with the kind of lines you only earn from years of saying yes when everyone else says no. He carried this invitation, just a little card, handwritten by his son. "Dad, I want you in the front row." And you know what happened? They told him to step back. "Sir, this section is for designated family only. If you don't move, security will escort you out." And he didn't fight, didn't argue, just nodded, moved aside, blended right into the shadows under the exit sign, like he was used to standing in the back, like he'd been invisible so long he barely noticed anymore. All these people laughing, taking pictures, fixing their ties, they never even saw him. But some did. A few seats behind me, 6 guys in civilian clothes, all with that sharp, silent look you only see in people who know what a real crisis is. That he watched him like he was the only person in the room. That's when I knew something was off, you know what I mean? The ceremony started, Dean making jokes about tuition, parents clapping. The usual, only I couldn't focus, not with that Marine standing there, still as a statue, watching the stage. The staff walked by him again, whispering about whether he even belonged, and I felt this wave of shame, not just for him, but for all of us, because you could just tell that man had carried more than a share of trouble, and he was carrying it alone, now, on a day that should have been about his son. Then the student speaker, the dean's kid, gets up and thanks the presentable family in the front row for showing what real college values look like. And I swear you could cut the smugness with a knife-polite laughter, little nods. But the Marine didn't even flinch, and neither did those 6 in row 5. Time started dragging, each name called out like it was just another name, everyone busy trying to get the perfect shot of their graduate, nobody seeing what was unfolding on the edge of the room except the men in row 5 and me. Then the ushers came with their clipboards, more security, and one of them went up to the Marine, low-voiced, serious. "Sir, you'll have to come with me." He just shook his head, soft but firm. "I am not here to cause trouble. My son asked me to be here. I'm not leaving until I see him walk that stage." The guard tried to look tough, but the Marine didn't budge, just stood a little straighter, like he'd had this kind of fight before. Maybe not here, maybe not in dress clothes, but somewhere where the stakes were higher than a ceremony. Let me back up a sec. What nobody knew was that the men in row 5 were getting ready. It started with a single chair scraping back, then another, until all 6 stood up together, shouting, no fanfare, just a ripple of movement that made the room go cold for a second. One walked up to the Marine, pulled something out of his pocket, looked like a badge, but not police, not rank, just gold with a silver Trident Navy seal. He faced the guard and said, "That man doesn't leave this room. He led us through hell. He stays right here." You could feel the mood shift, the air getting tight, people finally realizing something bigger than their programs was happening. The guards hesitated, unsure, the usher who dismissed the Marine stepping back, face pale. The 6 SEALs lined up behind the Marinino words, just backing him, not guarding, not flanking, backing. And then, from the side of the auditorium, a new voice, older, military ribbons on his chest, slow and deliberate, stood up and told everyone who that Marine really was. Master Sergeant Raymond Cole, 3rd Recon, U.S. Marines, the man who in Afghanistan ran into a burning compound under fire to save 5 men and carried the rest of us on his back. That's when the room finally stopped pretending not to notice. The whole thing paused, like even the lights were waiting. And then, out of nowhere, a cap and gown steps out from behind the rows of graduates. Lucas Cole, the Marine's son. He heads for the podium, grabs the mic, and says, "That's my dad. He never wanted attention, never asked for anything. Every morning, he told me to stand tall, to be someone I'd be proud to look in the eye." Lucas looked right at him, voice cracking just a little. I am proud today, not because of my degree, but because of him. Lucas walked right down to his dad. No hesitation, saluted, and then the Marine Raymond pulled his son into a hug. Nothing fancy, just real. The SEAL saluted, the whole room finally remembering how to stand still, how to respect something bigger than a title. And it got quiet, real quiet, like you could hear people breathing for the first time that day. When Raymond and Lucas finally walked to the front row, not one person tried to stop them. The usher stepped aside, clipboard shaking, eyes on the floor. No more arguments, no more rules. Space was just made because it had to be. The ceremony went on, but it was different now. The dean came back to the podium and had a pause, voice shaky, admitting they'd failed to recognize someone who mattered more than any speech. The applause that followed wasn't for the faculty or the students, it was for Raymond Cole, a man who'd walked in with nothing but a folded card and the kind of quiet dignity you can't fake. After the ceremony, people drifted by, students shaking Raymond's hand, some just laying a hand on his shoulder, one young woman whispering, "Thank you for carrying them." And then, the youngest SEAL pressed a challenge coin into Raymond's hand. The quiet ones lead the loudest, wars engraved right there. He didn't cry, but you could see the weight shift off his shoulders, just a little, as if, for once, he didn't have to carry it all alone. And, when the lights dimmed and everyone started leaving, I sat there a while, watching, because sometimes the things you remember most are the ones you never expected to see. Lucas gave up his moment for his father. 6 SEALs stood at attention for the man who led them home, and an entire auditorium learned what it means to honor someone, not because of a title or a guest pass, but because it's right. Raymond didn't come demanding anything. He came for a seat, but by the time he left, the whole room was standing for him. Not because he asked, but because they owed him. And in a world that's so quick to look away, sometimes all it takes is one act of real respect to turn a whole room around. So let me ask you, if you'd been there, would you have seen him? Or would you have just kept looking for your own moment, your own seat in the front row? Share your thoughts below. What does justice look like to you? Where's the line between rules and respect? Because if we don't talk about it, we'll keep forgetting the quiet ones, and those are the ones we can't afford to lose.